Howdy, all of you delicious people. I'm here today to review Day of the Dead, the Season 1 finale, the Episode 10, the thing that I would honestly dub, oh, this is what a season finale tastes like. Because we have this season finale that is to taste so cheaply done, figuring out a way to write people off, seemingly in this episode. We have it where there's, I think, like a sticker still on a shovel saying that, like, probably after they use this thing, they're gonna go back to wherever store there is that they bought this thing so they can return it to save some money on this show. Good God, did this season finale feel so cheap? Because it did. For the life of me, where they actually should have spent the most time on, obviously, in this episode, they didn't. They just, off camera, just ruined something that they should have spent the most time on. I would have been happy if they would have wasted the most time on that, but instead, we're just like, no, there's some actors here that are probably gonna want a lot of money here, so we just gotta thin out the herd to kind of cheapen up this show and just try to, as much as possible, cut as much money as we can do. But weirdly, they have this optimistic, like, feeling like there's gonna be a season 2 out of this garbage. They kind of cliffhang the end of this episode to, like, say, oh yeah, we're definitely gonna do a season 2 for how much we butchered out of this budget. Like, come on, we're definitely going to do a season 2 out of this. This show is just trending enough to get people interested. Like, you know what? I might be fine if, one, season 2 is completely different than season 1. And two, if they probably go off to have this be, like, a October released show, I think I might be interested in going into season 2 if it's released in October and not a couple of months from now. If it's a couple of months from now, I will have no interest in this show. Like, I will just be like, oh, that's out again? Oh, alright, well, I probably will have better things to do by then. But, like, I'll try to squeak it in, but this show probably has to be like an October release. Because when would anybody give a rip about Day of the Dead in a couple of months from now? There's probably going to be some Disney Marvel show that's going to come out that people are like, oh no, I don't, yeah. There's going to be too much content probably in a couple of months from now to justify a Day of the Dead season 2. Like, we have like so much things coming out in January. That's like Superman and Lois is coming back for season 2. That's going to be like a 20 some odd episode show. There's so much content coming out in like the following whatevers, and it's so going to be like, and Day of the Dead is going to have to try to compete with that. I don't know. But I'm kind of interested in kind of doing like, because I think my main thought process right after this show was ending, it's like, well, what's going to be the next thing? What's going to be the next show? What's going to be the next thing to do? I really thought about possibly covering The Expanse. Like, that seems like an interesting show. And The Expanse, I guess, at some point was a sci-fi show. And now it's on Amazon and it's primed out, so I heard that show possibly had gotten canceled, but I don't know. Like, might be interesting to just kind of check it out. But I say that now, and then eventually I probably won't even get to it. So kind of hold your horses. If I say something now, that probably will never be a thing. I'm also interested in covering the Jason Momoa show C. It seems like that does have some popularity. It seems like even though I might not have had a single view when I kind of covered the pilot, I don't know. It's been a while. I haven't checked on it. I probably should have. Well, since I was talking about it now. But anyways, so teeing up. What is this last? It's probably gonna be. It's probably not gonna get renewed, is it? If I want to hear Sci-Fi officially say, "Hey, Day of the Dead is getting renewed," because I didn't bother to check any of the. I'm not on their Facebook or whatever they Twitter, whatever Tweeter. They're tweaking out, freaking after the show. Like, yeah, we just spent this money for whatever stupid reason on the show. So, teeing it up, what is this episode about? So, we of course have Rhodes, who seems to have a very prominent role because there seems to be other people that have a lesser prominent role that are almost be non-existent like characters, aka any number of people that were to be play Marted or pay Marted out. Uh, they forgot they had a thing of budget in this show? Wow. So weirdly, we have Dr. Logan, who has her own little story in this episode that honestly goes nowhere, but then has to have some like cliffhanging thing that makes no freaking sense. Anyways, but we also kind of have McDermott in this episode kind of doing what I like. There was so much about this episode where I'm like, I pretty much like knew this stuff was going to happen. Like I kind of like, I don't know what it is with me. I can just say like, yeah, I think they're gonna go in this direction, and weirdly that's the direction they go to. Like that kind of feels like laziness where it's like, man, if I can predict a show, like it feels like you can find a lot of stuff that's just easily predictable now where like I would just be like, you know what? Like it feels kind of crappy to go that direction, and hopefully they don't go that direction. But surefire enough, they do, and I'm like, like man, like why did people, either other people or me, have to be right about this? Like that just feels like they couldn't come up with anything creatively. So, so yeah, like, uh, we have Rhodes again, who seems to be a crazy person that we have to deal with his craziness, but not all the way through the show, but just good enough to just say that, like, well, I guess since this guy hasn't been in X number of episodes, like, I guess he has to just be here now. So, yeah, like, that's all that I really have for teeing up thing of this episode. Just, like, because there's not, for a season finale, there's not really a lot going on in this season finale. It's just, we have these kind of small little things going on here to lead up to this stupid thing that they do to try to get rid of all these zombies. And I'm like, there has to be some kind of thing that just has us turn around and have these still zombies be alive, and they had just found another way through where they are at the end of this. Well, I'll talk about it more in spoilers, but I'm severely talking about this cryptically, otherwise I have nothing to talk about when we get into spoilers because there's very little going on. So let's go on to that double five. Let's just go into spoilers so we can talk about it. We can get it off our chests. If I haven't said it, thank you everybody who had consistently commented on every single one of these episodes, or if you just came in late and you're also disappointed in this show. Because you're like, man, yeah, this show sucked. And I'm like, yeah, I don't blame you. It's garbage. Everybody has problems with it, whether you have a short list of things or whatever. Like, the show sucked. I'm still feeling that at the end of this. God, what a, like, could have watched a better zombie show. But I was just like, man, I'm so interested in this because it's so bad. I don't like I could have like watched so many beautiful unicorns, but instead I'm gonna watch a turd being polished. But I just can't look away. It's a car crash thing going on here, and I just can't look away. So let's go into spoiler time. Spoiler time. It's about that time we need to spoil this episode. Let's get into spoilers. So we of course have everybody making their way out of that whole Cleargenics locking them in scenario with Blackwood rescuing them and Fisher, who is still now dead. And so the beginning of this episode, we have Trent, who is to be written off the show, with him not actually being on the show, that he's just driving away in this Cleargenics car, supposedly. And Lucas to tell his mother, Paula, how many times did he hit on you before he left? So this guy, like, doesn't even get a shot to say goodbye to everybody. And they just come up with a way to just write him off. Like, Power Ranger, Mighty Morphin Power Ranger style, where when the original three, Jason, Zach, and Trini, like, left the show, like, they kind of did them dirty to just consistently keep showing them leaving off camera with these doubles that look just like them from behind. Like, it feels like Trent got that same exact thing, that same exact service, but man, do they just need to just continue to figure out a way to cut budget in the show. Like, I would have liked for them, you know what? You could have killed Trent off in the last episode. You could have come up with some way to just like, oh, he was in the ventilation thing too, and now he's dead, because who cares? So Lauren is going and hovering over Fisher's dead body, and like is to tell him, it's like, well, hey, like yeah, it's sad you like kind of died. I'm gonna paraphrase here. I'm gonna usually paraphrase. Laura's like saying like, hey, we're gonna make it up that you died. We're gonna like avenge your death or whatever. That they're gonna go to Paymart and kind of like save whoever is there, and hopefully like Amy is saved. So they all go off to Paymart to find out that Cleargenics is to have made it to Paymart before the survivors could. And so now they're thinking, oh, well, the door is pretty well fortified, but they just go in and like the door is like ding dong and freaking opens. And they're like, well, like, I guess they must have made it, like, Cleargenics or the zombies must have made their way through, because we had that whole Bobby, like, scene where all the zombies were coming to, like, Paymart X amount of time ago, and now Cleargenics is to have easily just gone on here and killed all these zombies off, right? I'm sorry, we don't see one Cleargenics body anywhere in this Paymart. all we see is eventually Rhodes, who is now just crazed, but we'll get to that. So we go on and we have this group making their way through Paymart to all of a sudden have Pops show up. I'm like, oh, so they could conveniently pay like Pops to be in here for like 2 seconds. Because Pops doesn't show up, be all zombified. He's like, ah. And then all of a sudden we have Amy coming in and chainsawing through him. I'm like, oh, yeah. Better pop that nut right now. So Amy coming through with this chainsaw, I'm like, man, this feels like Evil Dead. It gives me that kind of Evil Dead kind of feeling. And then she's like, well, welcome to Paymart, mother effers, kind of thing. And so I was like, man, like, Amy looks so cool. But then, like, they don't do anything after that to continue to make Amy look cool. So really, Amy is to ask, well, hey, where's Fisher? And they're like, yeah. And she's like, no. And like, yeah. He's dead. Sorry. Like, out of all of the people that we could have afforded to have killed off, a.k.a. Trent, Fisher just was the one that had to die in the last episode. We had to write off Trent. We could have just, like, Trent could have died a hero in the last episode. Out of all the garbagey thing that he had to do in the last episode, he could have died a hero in this one, and they could have still written him off. But no, heaven forbid, right? So they could have just brought Trent in just to kill him off. That would have been fine. So, no offense to the actor that played Trent or Trent. It's just like... Anyways, so now we have Amy going with the group, and they're going on, and they're making their way more through this Paymart to either have to fight some zombies because this show has no budget, or instead they bump into Rhodes, who has the most goofiest looking, like, bomb frickin' thing. And Rhodes has just now gone and lost his frickin' mind. And so Rhodes is mentioning how, like, if the group would have still been at that place and the smoke death thing would have came in and murdered them, like, hey guys, you could have just fallen asleep and died. Like, you could have had a nice death. But now you're gonna come here and get blown up. You're gonna get a horrific death. Because that's Rhodes' plan. Like, Rhodes is to basically have, like, a bomb strapped to him, and he's just ready to just hit the trigger on this whole business. And so they're like, well, hey, Rhodes, if you go and you hit that trigger, you're gonna die too. And he's like, I don't care. Like, I just don't want to become a zombie at this point, because it feels like it's going to happen. I'm like, where's your scratch, Rhodes? Where's your scar that's going to take you, or where's your scratch or your whatever that's going to take you 1,000,000 years to turn from? Is Lorne ever going to turn into a zombie? I'd like to think no. I guess she is never going to turn into one. 'Cause they never resolved that. Good God, show. God, I wish, like... just slap people in the face. Just go and find a random person somewhere. Just Day of the Dead, blah. That's how I feel, being violent. The show. Anyways, so we end up having them go and take out Rhodes. And because Captain Pike is to turn into a zombie, and Paula is to go and kill Captain Pike because it seems like they killed her, but zombies don't die easily in this world. But it seems like in this episode they conveniently do. So Captain Pike is to fall over and die, supposedly. And Paula's like, oh, like, I'm sorry, you're dead. Yeah, like, they end up finding, like, Cindy, and, like, she's dead. Horrifically. And I'm like, man, you could have spent so much time showing these events. You know what, if we're gonna continue this season, you know what I would have done? In the pilot, or the first episode of season 2, I would have marinated and come back to this Playmart situation and played out what happened in this Playmart thing, and have one person conveniently be either in this Playmart or be a person that is to just arrive coincidentally at this perfect time, who escapes out of this whole event and then becomes their new cast member. That would actually be a smart idea, to actually give us this one scene of what happened and kind of how things broke down. In this show, you would also have to bring back a lot of people like Bobby and Pops and a number of other characters, but like, it would be better off, because we should have had that battle anyways. So Rhodes ends up getting taken out. Not dead, but taken out. He gets, like, knocked unconscious. But then they kind of wake him up later. So they go on and bomb up Rhodes. And they end up going and strapping him to this tow truck and have him with this, like, catcher equipment on. And so weirdly, Rhodes is to have this, like, he's mic'd up or something, because he sounds really weird when, like, Rhodes is, like, yelling or whatever. It sounds so goofy, but then eventually when they take the catcher's mask off, he sounds fine. So I'm like, why is he, like, weird? Like, did they F up his mic? Like, what's going on here? Like, that's, again, another cheap thing where I'm like, what's up with his mic in this episode? Did they have to re-audio afterwards? Like, whatever Rhodes was yelling? So we end up having everybody kind of getting certain weapons and collecting a bunch of stuff for them to go, because we now have this plan that our characters are to go to this cave and try to seal off the cave to then keep all the zombies into this cave, like they did with the one, I'm going to say Native American zombie. Like, I don't know his past. Like, I didn't eHarmony or whatever the ancestry, whatever thing. Anyways, I don't know his life. So, even though they told me in an episode before, but this is the last episode. So we have it where Luke and Cam are having this moment where Luke is like, oh, so you and Lauren. Because Cam is to say, it's like, well, yeah, like, Lauren's, like, really smart, and Luke's like, Cam, you have a thing for Lauren, don't you? Like he's saying some compliment to Lauren, and so then now Luke is trying to do what Cam usually does, and is to like try and motivate Cam, and so Cam is like, "You're doing me, aren't you?" And he's like, "Yeah, isn't it great?" So Cam goes off to show Lauren all the stuff that they got, and she is just like, well, like great, like cool party bonus points for you. And so Cam is like, well, yeah, like it was really hard to get all this stuff, and that's why she was like, well, yeah, that's why I said like, good that you got those, like, whatever. So now we go on and we have everybody, like, everybody knows what their job is. So we go onto this tow truck, and now basically Rhodes is to whine and cry like a little baby. So we're driving this tow truck to have these zombies all follow this tow truck with Rhodes yelling and screaming and whatever. And I'm like, didn't they do this before in like so many other like Walking Dead episodes where they end up having uh like I think they had like Norman Reedus, or they had like Norman Reedus' character. Heaven forbid I actually remember what it actually was. Uh like he was on a motorcycle, and like he was on this motorcycle and like all these cars and whatever, and like the zombie herd was following them. And I'm like, this is basically just like that. So then I think they were gonna try and like get them to fall into this ravine or something like that, or they're trying to like herd them away from where they were at. So the master plan, which it doesn't feel like there's a ton of zombies on this road of where like this tow truck is being followed, so it feels like they're getting every single zombie in this town, which I can't believe that is all the zombies in this town. And I'm like, man, that feels like a very weak zombie apocalypse, but okay, whatever. So they go on and they make their way to continue driving. And so all of a sudden Cam is to fall over and Lauren is to catch him because they're on the they're on the back end of this tow truck. And so Lauren is just like, well, let's finally just kiss. So they kiss, and Lauren is like, don't say anything. Cam's like, what? Like, no. Like, can we do that again? Take two. Like, I didn't expect it. Like we need another cut. So so what ends up happening is shortly after both Lauren and Cam kiss, all of a sudden Cam is to fall off the tow truck and just disappear into the collection of zombies. And here's the thing. So what happens to Cam is that McDermott had scared off other zombies to protect Cam, but both Cam and McDermott aren't even in the same environment where Cam was to be last be seen in. They just go and they play off of an area that they were already using to finish up Cam and McDermott's scene. And I'm like, God, you, no. So Cam and McDermott are having this moment where Cam is like, Dad, I know it's still you, kind of thing. And so we have Cam who gives McDermott his wedding ring back, and so McDermott takes it, and so Cam is to try to put his hand on McDermott's shoulder, and McDermott has this kind of back and forth of like, well, hey, he's my son, but also I want to nibble on him. I want to make you want to, but he doesn't, and so we also have McDermott putting his hand on Cam's shoulder, and that wraps up Cam. You know what? I would have been okay if McDermott just eats Cam. But no, like, McDermott has to be the smart zombie for whatever freaking reason. Because technically, he was maybe the first turned character in the show. So why would you want to get rid of him now? Maybe when we get to season 2, when they have to get rid of people. Anyways, so now back with the group. So the group is to make their way to this cave. And so now we're like, okay, what's going to happen to Rhodes here? Because it's not like they can free Rhodes. It's not like they're going to just like, oh, hey, Rhodes, now you're with us. I wouldn't. So what ends up happening instead is Rhodes is to get lowered down, to just get torn apart by these zombies. And I'm like, where's the catcher's equipment that was on Rhodes? All of a sudden, it seems like Rhodes is wearing a completely different outfit that he wasn't wearing while these zombies are tearing him apart. And, like, we end up mostly just seeing Rhodes' belly, and Rhodes is like, I hope you choke on me! So I'm like, okay, this is just great. So we have Blackwood, who is to decide that she's going to go and take all the zombies and bring them in to this cave. She's going to do the sacrifice play. And then afterwards, they're going to go and place all these bombs. And Paula is to shoot the button part of this bomb to where it'll go off. I'm like, what happens if she shoots it and just breaks the thing and then it doesn't go off? Like, are they just gonna have to figure out a way to just, like, shoot the thing to where it explodes? You're writing on, like, shooting this button to know that it's going to go off. How is there a guarantee? Well, I guess if it doesn't work out, then you just, like, well, let's just light it on fire. Let's come up with any other kind of approach. I don't know. They could have probably had a lot more common, like, a more common bomb thing to do than just shooting a thing. That just, I don't know, it just seemed weird to me. So, let's go and cover Dr. Logan. So, Dr. Logan is going and having a daughter, because, like, did they ever build this up anywhere in the show? Does this not feel like a random scene to just really try and, like, cut as many people doing separate things so they can kind of just write them off this show weirdly? I don't know, it seems weird. So Dr. Logan is in this hospital, and it seems like her daughter is dying of something. They never really say. So Dr. Logan's daughter is to die here, and so we have Dr. Logan who injects her daughter to have Dr. Logan kind of shaking her, thinking she's going to become a zombie. And she seemingly doesn't, so Dr. Logan just walks off to then get grabbed by these masked men to be written off the show. And I hope I didn't say this in any time before. If I did, then I probably did. So, saying definitely, hey, we're going to get a season 2. Sure, you guys just really think that maybe it was trending seemingly for a while. So now Blackwood is to make her way through this cave, and we think she's going alone because why would anybody else come into this cave also just to clearly die? But we have Blackwood, and then all of a sudden Amy and Lauren are to go into this cave because I guess no male would decide to go and sacrifice their life. Live? They're live! They're so alive. Yeah, so no man would go into the cave like, well, Lauren, I love you, or Lauren. Blackwood. Maybe Blackwood could have had a boyfriend at the end of this, like, surprisingly maybe Trent could have been Blackwood's, like, boyfriend in this, and he could have went back in there to, like, I don't think I can let you die. And then Blackwood would be like, oh, okay, like, you won some brownie points. Like, I could have figured out a whole way to write Trent off as a really good hero, but instead, like, we just have him written off stupidly. God. So, but yeah, so now Blackwood, Amy, and Lauren are to go further in this cave, and Blackwood is just stupidly just saying, hey, fresh meat, yum yum, come, meow mix, please deliver, come on. Come on down. You're the next contestant on Eat Some of This. Like, so Blackwood goes with these three characters, and so there's only so many bullets left in this gun, and so they're like, well, all we need is 3 bullets for all of us to just kill us all off. It's like, man, that's dark. You mean dork? Dork? That's stupid. So we go into this cave, and all the zombies are to just continue to go through this cave. We really have the 3 girls who are just kind of hiding in this one part of the cave that has this kind of like kind of wood or something kind of sealing them off. So these are zombies, right? That like to eat people? Like, I also had that confusion in the last episode. I'm like, do zombies like to eat people in this world? Because there is obviously a part where a zombie could have eaten somebody, and they decided not to. They must have had their filling with Rhodes to just be like, you know what, like, I smell a person, but I'm just, I'm just so full. Like, you know what, I had, like, before I was to die, I had a big thing of Quiznos, and, like, it's always just so filling, that Quiznos. No sponsorship. So then I just had Rhodes, and I'm like, man, am I just stuffed? I'm like, Thanksgiving twice. And so this zombie is just like, you know what? I just, like, I smell some women. Like, I think I even see one. But, you know what? Full. So the zombies just continue on through the cave, and all the women are to run out of the cave. And so Paula's like, I'm gonna go and shoot the bomb thing, the button, before the girls get out, and then Luke is to shove Paula's gun out of the way, like, no, they're gonna make it out, like, I see them. And then the girls run, they're like, yeah, like, let's go, like, shoot the bomb thingy, shoot the bomb. Because, like, Luke was to, like, set up this bomb, and Luke was saying, yeah, the only way that we're probably going to have to, like, detonate this thing is if someone dies and sacrifices themselves. Because Rhodes, how he set this up was to basically just, like, kill himself, like, detonating this bomb. I'm like, yeah? He strapped it to himself. Did you think he was going to come up with another option? like just be like, oh no, I just conveniently have another like just remote control just on hand just in case I decided to not end my own life. Luke. So the girls get out of the cave, they detonate the cave, and so now supposedly all the zombies are just locked up in this cave. Yeah, that's gonna just easily work, right? Or I'm assuming that the zombies are all now killed, right? Because that makes a whole lot of sense. Because Blackwood is to make the thing of that there was at one point where a zombie was sealed in a cave once before, so it has to rework now. So, really, we have where they go back, I think, to Playmart, and they go on and they find Bobby's beer and they start drinking it. And so Luke is underage, but Paul is just like, well, hey, like, I can let you drink. Like, come on, it's not like you haven't drank a beer already in your life. So Luke is going on and drinking. He's like, and he's like, oh, this is what beer tastes like. And Paul is like, come on, you've drinking a beer before. You can say it now. So hence why he's tried to steal so much of it before, or steal a keg, which none of that at all worked. So really everybody is like, huzzah, like we beat this maybe. And so really that's just kind of how they like write everybody off for their victory seemingly. But like I was hoping for there to be like one last like actual zombie, which technically we do get that with Dr. Logan's daughter, that is to be in the bed and then she eventually like stands up, she's like, ah. And so like that's how we can kind of conveniently do a season 2 with her being a cliffhanger thing. That I almost like forgot about. So if we thought all the zombies were dead in that cave, they're still technically the girl zombie. But yeah, so I think I've covered a lot of this episode, and I think I'm going to get out of here because I know, like, this is roughly the time of which that it is. It's kind of weird now being done with this because of, it's like, and it shouldn't just be like, okay, well, done is done. But, it's kind of weird finishing this up now, and like if they justify a second season somehow because they just have money to burn in their wallets, then by golly, like I guess I'll probably figure out a way to eventually watch this if I even know it exists still. But again, thank you everybody for being a part of this, whether you just came on whether random thing and we're just like, yeah, I want to see if somebody was disappointed in this show as much as I was. Because there was never a time for me where I was like, man, this show is going to get better. Like, I had hopes at some point for them to just kind of like, maybe they can turn this ship around. But, like, once it started to get down to, like, the nitty gritty of just, like, there's only, like, 2 episodes left, I'm like, yeah, there's no way to just turn this, there's no way to polish this turd now. And so eventually for them, it was just like, yeah, let's try and cut the budget so badly of this show that no one's going to justify a season 2 coming out of this. Because no one liked any part of this. But some people might have said, oh yeah, like there's a lot of potential in here, but that's it. So with that said, yeah, I think I'm gonna get out of here. Goodbye everybody. Yeah, I probably didn't have much to even like talk about in this one. There's just, the show's over. Goodbye everybody. Bye everybody.